What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Christian Labosco podcast. Today I've got Martin on. Martin has grown to 700 followers on Twitter in about a month and is launching a giveaway explaining exactly how he did it. I'm super honored to have him on as a guest. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, for those who don't know your story, could you give a little background on how you got into the creator economy and your story before that?
Mm. So I've been trying to do a bunch of online business stuff for quite a while now. Started on YouTube, posted videos for like 15 months. Didn't really go anywhere there, but I learned a lot. And then I tried freelance copywriting for a couple of weeks. Didn't really go anywhere either, but again, I learned a lot. Then I tried X, just to see how it goes, and it kind of took off from day one basically. So yeah, that's about it.
How did you get introduced to X? Like that this is a platform that people can grow on, or what made you interested in growing on X?
Yeah. Um. So this is gonna be kind of funny story actually, but I first got the idea of starting X last year actually. It was like more than 6 months ago. Um, and I got introduced to it as most of us probably through Denko and his videos on YouTube, right? And so I kind of considered the idea for a couple of months. I never took it too seriously because I personally never used Twitter, as it was called back then, as a user, right? So it just didn't make sense to me to start writing tweets or whatever. I just had the idea that okay, this is the platform where people just spam hashtags, stuff like that, and it's not very serious. Um, Eventually, I kind of got convinced to try it out, right? And so I did what most people do when they start on X probably, which is like I tried writing posts like Dan Co. And hoping to go viral by sharing my life wisdom. Um, and I didn't. And so after 7 days or whatever, I kind of gave it up. I posted like maybe 8 or 10 tweets, just like short one, two liners. Didn't really go anywhere. I gave it up, and after 6 months, I decided to give it another try.
What do you think was different about the way you approached Twitter the second time, as opposed to the first time?
Yeah. So after the initial fiasco, I wanted to make sure I'm prepared this time. So I spent like, I don't know, I would say at least 30 hours just studying resources before I ever posted my first post this time. Um, and yeah, just like making sure I understand the rules of the game this time and I know what I should be doing. I basically this time I kind of had a plan, not like the first time we did. It was just trying to see what happens.
Yeah, that really seems to have worked really well. And I think that's something that people can take because I definitely like I've been posting on Twitter for 6 months and I was probably the same as you were in the beginning. Like I took a Dan Co course and I just sort of started posting, hoping
Yeah.
for the best. And it's almost like those 30 hours that you did paid off your ignorance debt, I think Alex Ramosi calls it. And it like you got all those kind of almost mistakes out of the way, a lot of them that people make because you did the research, and then you were starting at a higher skill level in a lot of areas when you first started on Twitter.
Yeah. One thing I would add to that, right, to anyone who might be listening or like thinking about doing something similar, is that there is a very like big difference between being prepared and getting stuck in tutorial hell, where you spend months and months just absorbing information and never applying any of it, right? So what I can say is that even though I spent 30 hours studying, and just gathering information, in the end, 80% of that information that I learned turned out to be either incorrect or completely useless, right? Uh, but those 20% like helped me a lot still. But what I meant to say is that like don't get caught up in the trap thinking that you need to learn everything before you start because that's not the way it works. And the like you're only really gonna learn how things work once you start doing them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that it's like a balance of both of taking action and the reflection and studying. And I think that's something that I overcorrected on from my past experiences, where like I remember I wanted to do car washing to earn money, and I spent like 2 weeks studying like whatever, like the best pricing model and materials to use, and then I never did a car wash. And like that's a repeated theme throughout different things I tried. And then with Twitter, I'm just gonna post. Like I'm just gonna keep posting and just try. And I have had more success than anything else, but I think I would have had even more success had I been studying more. Even though I did study, I don't think I analyzed if it was working as much as I should have. So I definitely think it's like a balance. You don't want to get stuck in analysis paralysis. You're just like
Yeah,
constantly consuming and not taking action, or taking action and not even being aware of what's working and what's not.
yeah, yeah. I also feel like sometimes, it can feel easy and pleasant to just be learning, uh, and it can feel unpleasant and difficult to actually start doing something. And like you might feel like what you're learning and then what you're, preparing for is going to feel wonderful once you start doing it. And then once you actually start doing it, you realize that, okay, this is not something you actually enjoy. This is what like happened to me when I thought I could become a trader, for example. And I spent like 20 hours, doing research, studying. Then I said to myself, like, okay, I'm gonna try it for one day just to practice, and I hated it from second one. And I'm so glad that I, didn't spend more time on it. So yeah.
That's so funny. I had a similar experience. I tried trading like early this year, and I
Yeah.
spent like probably 2 weeks studying it, practicing the charts, like whatever,
Yeah.
using leverage like an idiot.
Yeah.
And I lost like so much money. And then eventually I
Wait,
got,
wait, wait. You are trading with real money from the beginning?
yes, yeah,
Oh
because I was
man.
dumb. I was dumb.
That was
Yeah, I was being super
oh,
stupid. And I lost the money. And then like I think on one trade on like a stupid meme coin, I got all my money back. And then I just decided I took all the money I had made and I just decided to invest in Twitter and not be doing two things at once. And that was like when I had the most growth, is when I just focused on one avenue. And I hate trading because I constantly am thinking about if my trade has gone up or down, like if you're doing swing trading rather than scalping. So it's like it's so time consuming, I think. Like it's so much bandwidth to constantly worrying if like your trade went up or if you got liquidated. But anyway, that's a tangent. But yeah, um, and for copywriting, you said, and YouTube, how was your success with that?
yeah. So for YouTube it was kind of different, I would say, because at the point of my life when I was starting with YouTube, right, it was like I was completely new to any of these online business ventures, and so it was more of a case of just like me doing something just for the sake of doing something, right? Like I just wanted to create content, uh, and I didn't really care too much about making money at that point, right? Because I knew that first I'm gonna have to improve so much and I'm gonna have to learn so much, that I mostly did it to just like basically start doing something for my future.
Yeah.
Um, and with the copywriting, it was kind of different, right? Because I eventually got to the point where I had to like look at myself in the mirror and kind of admit that, okay, maybe this YouTube thing is not going to work out, at least for now. And like I'm gonna have to do something eventually to make some money, right? Because my ultimate goal was to start teaching people how to make money. But I didn't want to be the guy who gets rich by teaching others how to get rich.
Yep.
Um, so the plan was that, right, like I'm gonna learn copywriting, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna make some money, then I can start teaching others, and then I can do what I actually want to do, right? um but after I started, doing the freelance copywriting stuff, I realized that I was kind of forcing myself into a lot of the stuff just because of the nature of the line of work that is. um so And as soon, basically at that point, the X just took off. And so I kind of went all in and I kind of gave up on all the progress that I've made in the copywriting stuff. And it was a good decision, I feel like.
Do you think that the skills that you learned from copywriting have helped you with your Twitter growth and your writing?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there any like frameworks or ideas that you think have been specifically helpful from copywriting?
I don't think it's frameworks or um I think it's just the way you think. Um and because like I don't know, I feel like copywriting is kind of funny word to use for it. It's more of a case of learning how to influence people, and that's kind of all you're doing with social media if you really think about it, right? And like if you really look for it, you can see copywriting basically in anything, right?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Do you know the like copywriting technique where you copy down good copywriting like by hand?
Yeah, I've heard like people mention it, and some of the friends that I made on X who are copywriters said that they've copied, hundreds of copies by hand by this point. I've never tried it personally, but I mean, I can imagine it's very effective if you're like really, focus on only copywriting, right? But like for me at the moment, it's more of a complementary skill, so it's not something that I've been looking to get into. I don't know. What about you?
Mm, I have I think there might be something useful in it, like handwriting viral threads or like good content, and you might pick up on things they did by writing it down. Because I think like because you could say all of Twitter is copywriting in some way. So I think there might be something to that. And I've even had the thought that maybe handwriting your actual posts might be something that's powerful and then transitioning it to online. It's a lot more work, but I think there is something about like a
I,
pen and paper.
I've done that for a couple of my posts, but just for the short ones, because like I feel like for long posts, it's so extremely like difficult to edit them on paper, right? Then that it's just not an option really. But for the short ones, I've written entire posts on paper, and I think probably my most viral post with like 20K views was handwritten, if I remember Now you gave me something to think. Wait, I'm gonna have to write this down actually, because like there might be something to this. No?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something biologically because we've been writing for a much longer time. And I think also seeing it outside ourselves, like physically, even though you can see it on the computer, I think there's something powerful about like your hand creating the word. I don't know, but
Yeah, I
I think it's
mean,
also more rewarding.
yeah, I mean, there's been a bunch of research done on the like students taking notes by hand and taking by computer, and basically every single time hand notes just win by a mile. So like, it like you can't really argue it with science, and it makes sense logically that this is the way we evolved as humans, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also think that there might be something to that it takes more effort, so you're more thoughtful in what you write because it's a lot easier to type A than it is to write an A and write sentences. Rather like writing sentences is much more difficult than typing them and then editing. So I think you have to be more you can't be as flippant with your decisions that you make. You have to put some thought into it when you're writing it out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very, very interesting thought. I'm probably gonna actually experiment it more in the future, because it I see a lot of potential in this, especially because most people are not going to be willing to do this, right?
Yeah, that's true. Doing the things that people aren't willing to do, it gets results that
Oh
people
yeah.
won't get. Yeah. Um, who would you say like generally in life are some people that you look up to? This could be creator economy or just like figures.
Mm. I feel like it's kind of tricky question, uh, because I've been pretty careful about looking up to people.
Admire, I guess, maybe might be a better word.
Um, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that like
Yeah.
I feel like it's dangerous to adapt someone's every single opinion, right? So the way I've been trying to approach this is like take the best out of everyone and then improve what I don't like, right? But in a way of admire, then it would be, I don't know, I would say every like successful athlete I really admire, not only because I'm like really into sports, I've been doing them my whole life, but just the amount of like dedication and discipline it takes and to keep trying to improve and be the best is just something that like I have a lot of respect for. And yeah, I mean, from the business world, I guess if I had to say, pick someone whose ideas I kind of like, then I guess Alex Hormozy would be the guy if I had to choose just one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the point you made there about looking up to people, and I think you can come fall into the trap, sort of like you said, of pedestalizing them. And then
Yeah,
when you put them on a pedestal, then you like put it outside yourself and you're like, well, what they did is because they're like special, and I can't do that because I'm not like them. And I think that because when you put them on a pedestal, you're basically saying that they have something special about them that you don't have. So I think that is very important to remember, and also not being dogmatic, sort of like you said about all of their ideas and adopting
yeah,
all of them. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, I think this is an interesting question for you. What do you think is the biggest thing that you have that sets you apart from other creators on X?
yeah. So I thought about this for a while, uh, and I would say that like there's two things that most people don't have. Uh, First thing would be just my personality, where I'm always trying to be the best at everything I do, at, and basically like not being satisfied with just being the top 10% or whatever, or like top 5%. Uh, and this kind of comes back from a lot of the stuff that I did in my past, right? But that's, I feel like, the first thing, which is like I'm willing to go the extra mile in every single thing that I do, just to like stand above others in all the small details, right? um so that's kind of the personality thing. And skill wise, I would say that it's the ability to teach, because I've been doing it for a long time as well. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people on X are missing. They might be better marketers or better salesmen than me or whatever, but I feel like very few people are better teachers. At least like in the niche that we're or that I'm in, right?
I
So
have
I
to
feel
agree
like,
with that.
yeah, I feel like those two things.
Yeah, I definitely agree that you're very good at teaching this personal brand like Twitter thing. Like I think that's why you're standing out as well, is that well, yeah, like you said, the teaching and the way you're able to present these concepts that are very that it takes a lot of sort of to distill them into something that people can kind of just read and be like, oh, that makes sense. Now I can implement that. And then I also saw this comment I said that you commented on somebody that sort of relates to this teaching is that you like to call your clients students instead of clients. And I thought that I liked that reframe. And I think then it becomes I'm trying to get money from them towards I'm trying to help them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Like I feel like I always kind of hated the word clients, right? Because I don't want to work for clients. If I wanted to like work for clients, I would have stayed doing copywriting. Uh, Whereas it's like, okay, if you're working for clients, they pay you money, you get the job done, and then you leave and you go our separate ways. Whereas when I'm working with student, especially in one-on-one setting, it's like I become completely involved in their success, and it's like their success is more important to me than my own. And so it's like, I'm waking up and I'm thinking about how can I improve my students, accounts before I think about how can I improve mine. So it's like, completely different framework. I feel like this could help a lot of people if they reframe their thinking in this way, especially for one-on-one programs, right?
Yeah, I could agree. I think that that's a refrain I'm gonna adopt, even though I've felt that I like that idea, but to put it as simply as clients for students, I think strengthens the reframe. Yeah. Um, this is a pretty loaded question, but how did you grow on Twitter so fast?
Yeah, I was expecting this one. So of course we don't have time to get into everything, right? But to kind of simply said, I thought about this as well, and I feel like the reason I grew so quickly was that I was doing everything that all the other beginners were doing, but every single thing I just did like 10% better than everyone else. And like if you do this for 20 or 50, little things, you're gonna be 10 or even 100 times better than everyone else, and you're gonna like stand out easily. So it's like there's so many things that go into growing your X account that people don't even realize. And I feel like I was I was willing to learn and like improve all of them, whereas a lot of other people are not.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think are some of those things that you did, say 10% better? Or what do you think are some of the most important things?
Um, well, for most important, I mean, obviously it would be writing. Um, then it would be just like understanding human psychology and content creation on social media in general. Copywriting is very important. Uh, but for the most underrated ones, because I feel like that's um, the more interesting kind of question to ponder about. Um, I would say like attention to detail helped a lot. Just keeping the branding and everything consistent. And then just visuals and first impressions. Uh, there's something that I've been like very vocal about with people that I teach, and because like you don't realize how much people who don't know you are going to judge you in 1.5 seconds upon like looking not even like at your profile but even at your comment. And so it's like you just I just got into the mindset where I always wanted to make my first impression as good as possible with my posts, comments, and profile and basically everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this last point you said sort of relates to this idea, I think, of the halo effect,
Oh yeah.
where like based on the way they look or they present themselves, you start to value their ideas more just based on that. I think that's basically the basis of that idea. But I definitely think that's very important and I like how you took it a step further beyond profile optimization, but also the comments you leave. Like, are you making a good impression of who you are and your brand? And is that impression one that you think aligns and is like good? I guess that's how would you determine a good first impression?
Um, I would say is the one that creates interest, uh, in a way where like you're interested because I'm not sure how we describe it right, but like
It creates intrigue into
yeah,
them
but like
looking at you.
because intrigue could be I don't know, for example, like you walk up the street and you see someone with like one hand, it creates interest, but it's not kind of the interest that I'm trying to go for, right? It's
Mm,
more of a uh like you make the people ask like how is this guy so good basically, right?
mm.
Like what I'm trying to go for with when I create like a nice visual for a post or whatever, right? or I like make sure I nail down the formatting and everything, right? So that it looks like very aesthetically pleasing. Uh, and basically, yeah, it kind of basically just stands out from everybody else is what I'm trying to go for,
Yeah.
right?
I think it's sort of like you said, I think focusing on the small details. And I think there's this thing, this story from the sculptor Michelangelo where he had someone like look at his sculpture, and then 2 months later, that same person that was looking at his sculpture came back and he said like he didn't do anything, or what he did was a trifle, and all these things that he touched up and fixed. And he said, uh, something like trifles create perfection and perfection is not a trifle. And I think that
Mhm.
aligns with the formatting and like just all the details that like people don't notice, like probably consciously. And
Yeah,
if they do, then it really stands out. But even if they don't notice it consciously, it's something there that they
yeah.
just unconsciously notice the effort and the thought put into it.
This is this is extremely good point, right? For anybody that like might be listening or might be thinking about, why bother with all these things if nobody is going to notice. Um, I can guarantee that people are going to notice, and they are going to feel the effort that you put in, right? You just have to actually put the effort in, right? And if I'm not trying to like uh be like preach here or whatever, just to kind of give someone who might be listening an idea of how far this can take you, right? uh the two students that I have right now, I got both of them basically without doing any sort of outreach or effort whatsoever, and then they kind of came to me based on first impressions and the quality of my content that they've seen, right? And so it's like, you put the effort in for a while, it doesn't bring any results, and then you suddenly start like getting people, just appreciating it, and asking you to work with them. Basically, it's like it is worth it to put in the effort. Trust me.
Yeah. I think it's almost like the effort that you put in is in some way proportionate to how much of an authority you become. Because you become like an authority and you only have 700 followers in the Twitter growth space. And I think that's because a lot to do with the effort that you put in.
Yeah.
Um, I think this is probably a question most people are wondering is what you would recommend to a person on Twitter/X who is just starting out and wants to grow.
Yeah. So I thought about this as well. I have extremely simple answer, which is like, first of all, be different. Second of all, be better. And third of all, be you. That's it. All you need.
And how would you go about doing that?
All right, okay. So I guess we're gonna start from the end, right? Which is like be you. Um, there's a lot of misconception about social media where people think that they have to present themselves in a certain way, which is like, the Instagram influencer style, and whatever. Uh, and it's like you really don't have to. And it's actually, going to be harmful too if you do. Uh, and like if I have to give myself as an example, some of my best posts were the ones where I shared my struggles or like my vulnerabilities, my losses, just as much as my wins, if not more, right? And I was not hiding anything. I was not trying to be someone I'm not. And like I wasn't afraid of making some people, dislike me in some case. Uh, and I don't think like you should be either, because if you're doing this personal branding the correct way, you're going to attract some people and you're going to repel others. And that's good. That's exactly what you want, right? Because the only other option is to gonna be ignored by everyone, and that's not the better choice, right? And so it's like if I have a strong opinion about something, uh, I'm gonna let people know that opinion because then it's going to bring people who agree with this opinion closer to me, and then it's going to push people who don't agree with it further away. And I wouldn't want to work with those people anyway, right? So I feel like you just have to be not afraid of sharing your strong opinions, even at the cost of, repelling some people.
Yeah, I think if I could put sort of being you into like one sentence, and if you're really focused on growth in the marketing aspect, it's to lean into polarization in the opinions you have, like your strong opinions, like you said, the polarizing opinions. And I think you have to be careful though, not to just kind of say polarizing things because you want attention,
Yep.
but say the things that you actually think. So you actually do attract the people that you want and you get rid of the people that aren't interested
I,
in you.
I think we should repeat this once again for people listening because like sharing uh, polarizing opinions that are not yours just to pretend to be authentic is not being authentic. So like if you don't have a strong opinion on something, then just don't share it. It's fine. Like I'm sure there are going to be things that you can share from your life that are going to show your personality.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, it's like everything that's advice is almost like there's a double-edged sword. Is like you lead too far into it and you become like, especially with polarization, it could be so like I think that is something I found. Were you a big consumer of Hamza?
Yeah, I feel like a couple of years ago, I watched a lot of his content.
Yeah, I think he leaned more into the polarization and then I think he did a podcast with Chris Williamson and it was basically like a therapy session I wasn't expecting, but uh and Hamza has been I think less polarizing recently because he's not putting on this facade as much as he was to get attention and now he's being more authentic and you could definitely see it in the comments. Like people notice when you are because I think it's so difficult, especially when you're young, like to act like you have it all figured out. Like this is the worst thing you could be doing. This is the best thing you could be doing. It's like, well, you're like 25. It's like, how could you know? Especially, yeah, I think it's just so dangerous if you lean too far into it, especially when you are inexperienced. So, like, I think that's another thing is like, rather than the how to posts, is the how I did this is
Mm.
one of the best ways to do it because no one can really argue with what you did.
Yeah.
But if you're giving advice to everybody, then that can become dangerous. What do you think changes for growth strategy as you grow on Twitter from different stages? 0 to 500, 500 to 1,000, those are sort of arbitrary stages, but during
Mm,
the stages of Twitter.
yeah. So I wouldn't say like 500 or 1,000 is a big distinction. I would say that first 100 is very different. Um, and then it's kind of like maybe between 100 and 300, and then from 300 to 1K, I feel like it's kind of the same. Um, so like people who are struggling to get through the 100 mark, they have to realize that X is completely different from all the other platforms pretty much in a way that on YouTube you post a video and then if the video is good, the algorithm just picks it up and the video blows up, right? And if not immediately, then like over time it's going to start collecting views, like right? Anyway, on TikTok, it's kind of like you post a video, right? If it's good, it gets millions of views instantly, right? And you don't have to do really anything else. On X is completely different, right? Because there are so many posts being made every single day, right? Like people are posting 3 to 5 times every single day, and the way Twitter works, or X works, is not as YouTube where like you can get recommended 5-year-old video all of a sudden, right? Like each post really only lives for 48 hours and then it's kind of forgotten forever. And what I'm trying to say with this is that if you're a really small creator, then just making good content is not enough to grow your account like ever. This is very easy trap to fall into where like people are writing and they think that, but my posts are good. Why am I not getting any impressions? But the algorithm does not work this way. And what you have to realize is that X is completely different from all the other platforms like YouTube and TikTok in a way where it's more engagement based and it's more based on how much discussion can you create with other people in the comments and in the messages. So I would say you have to hyper focus on creating connections with other people in DMs and with the focus on starting conversations in comments and just like commenting a lot in general, because that's much better way to try to get eyes on you than it is to try to write a viral thread as a complete beginner, right? And then eventually, as you start going up, right, you can scale down on the commenting thing, right? And you can start leveraging the audience that you've built. So like at this point, I'm spending like maybe 20 minutes a day or like, yeah, I wouldn't say much more than 20 minutes a day just commenting. And then I just post and I reply to people commenting on my post because with the audience that I've been able to build, it's kind of all I have to do at the moment, right? But at the beginning, it was very, very difficult.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think I've seen this one thing that I think is the best way to break the 100 follower mark. I saw this new creator post like a, hey, I'm new to X. This is about me. And like she broke 100 followers in 24 hours. And for me, based on that, I think personality content does better
Yeah.
than value content, especially in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another like big beginner trap, which is like people think that their content is going to do well just based on the value that it gives. But you have to realize that, like, imagine a scenario, right, where some stranger you've never met in your life comes up to you on street and starts giving you life advice. Now, it might be the best life advice ever, right? Uh, but you're probably not gonna really listen to him, right? On the other hand, like imagine if some famous figure you look up to came to you on the street and started giving you life advice, you're probably gonna stop doing everything you're doing and start listening to it, right? And so it's exactly the same with X, which is like when you're a nobody in a way where nobody knows who you are, then just giving advice is not going to cut it, right? You always have to personalize it and you always have to put your own spin on things.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is even if it is valuable, they're probably not going to credit the idea to you because you're not an authority. So it's like if you talk about habit of formation, they're just going to think James Clear. Like they don't even really credit you with the authority from the value. And I think that's part why you've grown is because you have these novel ways of approaching Twitter. Like I think your post about like you having too many followers is the post that
Mhm.
caught my eye. I was like, oh, I've never heard that. And that was in a novel perspective. And I think that's almost more valuable than providing the information that everybody kind of already knows than and trying to be like the one that figures out how to say it like so special, but rather trying to find maybe a novel angle or a completely new way of looking at it. I think, J.K. Molina,
Yeah.
his likes ain't cash has made him very hot, like well known just because it goes against whatever the norm.
Yeah, it's also like very catchy phrase. And
Yeah,
I feel like maybe we could dive deeper on the too many followers thing. Uh, if that's not a problem with you, because I
of
feel
course.
like that's another huge mistake that a lot of people do. And like until I made the post, I honestly didn't realize like so many people were not aware of this, right? And this is not like a, clickbait title or anything, but like actually having too many followers can destroy your growth forever. Because you never want people who don't care about you and who are not going to engage with your content to be following you. Because what ends up happening is that your posts keep getting shown to this audience, right? And the audience doesn't engage with your post, and the algorithm that sees this is going to think that, oh, it's because the post is bad, and so it stops promoting it, and it never reaches a new audience, and you're basically stuck in this situation forever, where every single post that you create gets 100 or 200 impressions, and out of these 200 impressions, only 5 people engage with it. The algorithm realizes that, or like figures that, okay, this is a bad post. It never gets promoted further. You never get exposed to new people, and you're stuck with these couple hundred dead followers who are never going to engage with your stuff. So like you have to be extremely careful with uh, who you're bringing into your profile and who you're getting to follow you, right? Which is like, stop chasing the, like, which is like, it's extremely dangerous to just keep chasing these metrics, like the number of followers.
Yeah, two things based on that. What do you think is the solution to the too many follower problem? And also, what sort of, maybe not vanity metrics, but metrics should people be most focused on?
Yeah. So the solution, I would say, uh, the problem should go away eventually, right? Which is like the algorithm should classify these followers as dead followers and like stop showing your stuff to them eventually. Uh, but it might take a couple of weeks. I mean, there's no exact data for this, right? This is all of just my estimations. What you can do is you can manually remove people from following you, and that should decrease the chance of them seeing your post, right? Again, this is going to take a while for you to go through your following list and like remove inactive people, or like people who are, only followed you because you followed them and stuff like that. But if you're struggling with, low engagement, then this might be the solution. The second part, which is like, uh, wait, what was it again?
Like what metrics you should be
Ah,
focusing on?
yeah. Um, well, it's kind of tricky one, right? Because in the end, right, in the end, uh, what you should be focusing on is the impact that you have, the value that you create, right? Uh, it's kind of hard to measure. I guess the best way to measure it is actually by how much money you make, right? Because at least I hope it should be like this, is that the more value you can bring to people, the more money you should earn from that, right? Provided that you know how to market yourself and you know how to, uh, sell yourself and stuff like that. So I guess if I had to choose one metric to track, it would be, the income. Um, Other than that, I would say, like for the specific stuff on X, for posts that are trying to show authority and give value to people, I would track bookmarks. Um, and even then, like the bookmarks can be deceiving. Because like there are certain tricks you can do there and stuff like that. I would say very good way is just seeing if people are copying what you're doing. Uh, Again, not easy metric to like track or measure, but uh, once you start seeing people copying you, then you know you're doing something right. Another metric like this could be like just people commenting positive stuff, or like reiterating your ideas in their posts, because then you kind of know that, okay, you are having the impact, which is kind of all that you should care about.
Yeah. I think a good way to know that you're becoming an authority in the space is when people will start hacking authority from you with like the
Mm,
threads or like quote reposting you. And I think the writing a thread about somebody is even better than quote reposting because it's all about them. Like I did one on Taylor Simmons today because he was on the podcast, and that,
yeah, I've read it.
yeah, I saw the comment. Yeah. And that definitely shows like authority if people are writing stuff about you because it means that you've given them some value. And what do you think, like concrete metrics, if you had to name some, would you use to determine a good post versus a bad post for virality and reach and building an audience?
Um, well, here's the thing, right? Like as we discussed previously, there's good viral post and there's a bad viral post, which is like, um, and it all depends on the kind of audience that you bring to your profile. So if I had to describe it, I would say the best way to track whether the viral quote unquote post that you try to make was good or bad is by the way that the following posts are going to perform, right? And what I mean by this, if you brought the right type of audience to your profile, then your next couple of posts are probably going to perform extraordinarily well as well, just because they are the kind of posts that your audience cares about, right? On the other hand, if you made the viral post and you get a bunch of new followers who don't care about the rest of your content, your next couple of posts are going to perform poorly because basically of all the things that we discussed with the dead followers. So if I had to choose something, it would be this probably.
That makes sense. Um, Out of the metrics that Twitter gives you, which one do you think is most important? Like best indicator of the quality of your account, like engagement rate, new followers, impressions.
It's a difficult one. I would say long-term impressions. Uh, if I really had to choose one, probably. Um, because like if you're constantly getting a lot of eyes on you, and it's not like in a random way where you like post, your posts are getting couple hundred views for entire week, and then once every month you do a viral thread about, Andrew Tate or whatever, and you bring thousands of, you know, fanboys on your profile, and that kind of boosts up your impressions, and then once again they are dead for the next couple of weeks. But like you're consistently getting a lot of eyes on you, then it always means that you are doing something right because the people who are coming to your profile keep engaging with your stuff, which means that you are giving them what they followed you for. So like if I had to choose just one metric, it would be like um you know consistent by but high engagement.
Like engagement meaning
No,
like
no, no, not engagement, impressions. Sorry.
yeah. So what do you think is a good enough or a long enough time horizon to determine that? Like a month, 3 months?
Mm, I feel like 3 months is maybe a bit too much for X. Yeah, I mean, cannot say, right, because I've been here for such a short amount
Yeah.
of time, right? It's been like what 41 days. Um, I would say like 2 weeks, at minimum, right?
Mm.
Um, because like yeah, I would say 2 weeks, 2 weeks to 1 month is like a good indicator.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. One of the things that annoys me about Twitter analytics, because I was looking at the Twitter analytics to see if I could ask anything about that, is that it'll tell you your impressions for replies and it sort of screws up like sort of tracking it. Because I remember
Wait,
two
wait,
weeks
wait. It
in.
does?
Yeah.
So wait, like your comments get counted to the total impressions?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because like there's something that we discussed earlier, right? Which is like if you're small, that's your best chance to getting eyes on your profile. So like, one comment that's early enough on big account can bring, you know,
A
dozens
thousand
of people
impression.
to
Yeah.
your profile and get 10,000 impressions.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it makes sense.
Yeah. It's funny though, because I remember, I don't know, maybe a month into my Twitter journey, I commented on some big guy's post that had nothing to do with my niche or anything. And it got 260,000 impressions, and I think nobody converted. And it was like the most wasted comment of all time. And now my
Yeah,
Twitter analytics like make it look like I'm down by 50% on the last 3 months. But
yeah.
yeah,
You have to be careful with commenting on big accounts as well, which kind of all comes back to what we discussed. Like you only want people who care about you and your content to be following you.
I have a guess follow up to this is, do you think that you can build a really big audience broad and then educate them into being interested in you and your ideas and your product?
I think you can, uh, but you need a lot of authority and social proof to do that first, right? Um, which is like, if I'm making 10K per month, right? And I bring someone to my profile who, is interested in, just improving their life and knows nothing about X, um, I feel like there's a chance to convince him that growing on X is the way to get there, right? But if you don't have the results yet, the insane results, then you're gonna have very hard time doing that, and it's not worth the effort. It's
Hmm.
like you start very niche and then you broaden as you grow, is kind of the common advice I'd heard, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's sort of you can see that with Danco is that he'll sell you the sort of the lifestyle that you can
Mhm.
have 2 hours a day of work, walk all day, do whatever you want. And the way to do that is with writing. And like you're gonna trust him because he's making $200,000 a month online. And he has, and also his newsletters and YouTube video provide so much value and trust. And you get to know him pretty well and his ideas. So it's almost like you educate them through the levels of awareness. But that's
Oh yeah, for
interesting
sure.
that you say the authority. Do you think there's any way to build that authority without having to have the insane results?
No, and I don't think you should be trying to do it, right? Because there's like the another thing that um like I was very strict about when I created my offers, and when I'm creating my offers right now, is like I'm never going to promise something I haven't achieved myself. So like for my first two students, I never promised them, I'm gonna help them land clients because I haven't landed my clients yet, right? Now that I've
Yeah,
got the two students, I can promise people to help them land their first client because I've done it.
yeah.
But I'm not going to promise people to get to 10K, right? Until I've already done it.
What are your thoughts on documenting sort of and like the you're the niche?
Yeah.
Because then in that case, you don't have the authority, but you're almost documenting your way to your authority.
Well, okay, this might upset some people, but I feel like this is another easy trap to kind of fall into, right? Um, where people feel like documenting their journey is going to create their authority. Uh, but in my opinion, okay, again, this is just, I mean, I'm nobody, right? But in my opinion, this does not work because people who follow you because you're documenting your journey are going to be following you mostly because of who you are and to kind of see where you can take it and not to learn from you. So like it's okay to document your journey, right? Uh, if you see it as a way to learn better, to hold yourself accountable, and basically do it for yourself. If you see it as a way to attract clients and to build your business, I don't feel like it's gonna work. At least that's my opinion.
What do you
Like
think?
you have to combine it with authority
Skill.
posts, like
Yeah.
strictly authority posts as well. Like it's fine. Like I've shared a lot of my journey, but if I never did posts where I'm like, okay, here's how you actually do it, and here's what I've achieved, and like I'm like almost, bragging, um,
Hmm.
I wouldn't have gotten those two students, I feel like. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a couple parts. It's like I think documenting the journey with maybe storytelling because that's doing really well right now. Then the authority where you're sort of saying the problems you're solving on your journey. So there's actual value in that because you're solving your problems and sharing the solution. And then I think those two things, if you can do both of that, the storytelling of your story, which also provides some value, but like authority of solving the problems in your journey, I think is like, and that's something that seems like you're sort of doing in some way, because it's like that you're almost documenting the journey, except you have a goal. It's like 10K a month is the goal, and I'm going to show you what I'm learning on the way.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
authority is important. I agree.
yeah, it's more of like you're having the journey in the background, but you're not making it the entire point of your account, because that's gonna get boring real fast, right? Like okay, it might be interesting to keep up for a couple of days, but like nobody's probably going to follow you for 3 months just to see you,
Yeah.
grind it out in the back of your room.
If you're like day one, I wrote 3 posts and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
It's like, or because everything you can frame, I think, into content in some ways. Like, I wrote 3 posts, 3 viral posts in 2 hours. I mean, that's how Vigo's thread went viral. Like, whatever, 2 hours a week, 1.9 million impressions. That's documenting the journey, but it's so
yeah.
much
I
authority.
wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say that documenting. I would say that just the how I authority post, right?
Hmm. I guess maybe documenting is like I feel like the kind of correlation is blogging, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
vlogging or vlogging. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the authority combined with your story is like the best way. Like Benjamin Sean, I think is very good at that because he's landing big clients and he's combining his authority posts as long with the more story posts.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
What do you think is the biggest thing that stops small creators from growing?
Um, I mean, we discussed a bunch of different answers to this already, right? I would say that it's like chasing short-term pleasures instead of long-term improvements.
What would you say some of those short-term pleasures are as related to a creator and those long-term improvements are?
So short-term pleasure would be you write a post like consistency is key, never give up, guys. You know, you get 100 likes, you get 10 followers, um, your dopamine levels rise here, and then you feel like, oh, this was a good post, let me do it again. And so you write another post, right? Like this. I'm not gonna keep giving the examples, but I mean, you know what I mean, because you see these
Drink
posts.
water.
Yeah, you drink water. You see these posts all the time on your timeline, right? And
Yep.
it gets 50 likes again, and you're like, holy shit, why bother with read like writing 300 word long form for 2 hours if I can just write some shitty one-liner in 5 minutes.
Yep.
But what you don't realize is that the only thing this is going to give you, right, is a bunch of people uh, who don't know who you are,
Yeah, and don't
who
care.
don't care about your
Yeah.
content, don't care about what you're trying to teach, don't care about what you're trying to sell. And then when you do try to sell, right, or when you do try to teach, you suddenly realize that, oh shit, like I have the audience who doesn't care about me or my content at all. And it's like very difficult to crawl up. And then you say that, okay, maybe this doesn't work. I'll just go back to what worked for me, right? And then you start posting the two-liners again. Uh, so that would be short-term pleasure, right? On the other hand, like long-term improvement would be writing one long form, 5 times per week for 30 days. Uh,
Yep.
Even though it's going to take you 3 hours at the beginning, even though it's going to be bad at the beginning, even though it's not going to get any views at the beginning, because you know that by the time you are done with 30 days, all the effort that you've put in will result in something valuable, right?
Yeah. I completely agree. And I think to me, long term, the only way to do long term is if you're doing it more for the sake of doing it and it's about the mastery. Because if you're so focused on the results, like the results are important, like don't get that wrong. But like if you're doing it for the sake of like mastery, like I want to get so good at long forms and you're just doing it because you want to get good at long forms, that's much better than if you're focused on virality and your first couple long forms don't do well, then you'll go back to the short-term pleasure. So I think doing things for the sake with a goal in mind, but understanding that it's not going to reach that goal instantly and it's a process.
Yeah, I would say that, you said that metrics are important. I would say that at least the way I see it is like metrics should tell you whether you're improving or not, or whether you are going in the right direction, but they should not be your destination, right?
Yeah, reference point, not a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think I had something else, but I forgot it. But I definitely agree with that idea that focusing too much on the short. Oh, I remember it now. Um, I think that's the mistake when people come from Danco is writing the platitudes and things like
Mhm.
that. Because I think there's a couple things they don't understand about Danco is that like he'll write these platitudes and one, he has a large audience. Two, he spends like 6 hours walking like developing these ideas. And three is like these platitudes are from him like breaking like writing a long form newsletter every week and like studying. Like he's not like these ideas are being crafted through lots of writing. Like he's the foundation of his brand isn't platitudes.
Yeah, and there's another thing I would say to that is that like just the platitudes without all the long form content would never work, right? But it's like if you've consumed a bunch of content from a creator, right? And then the creator summarizes the idea in 1 or 2 sentences, it works, right? Because you have those ideas planted in the back of your head. But if someone with 50 followers tries to create the world-changing idea without ever providing any long-form content to like go more in depth on it, it's not going to work. And it's something that people don't realize once again.
Yeah, I think Benjamin Sean shared this on the podcast I had with him, was that he'll write the story and then usually the last line is the platitude. And the
Mhm.
platitude works because, or that last line works because he's given the context and it's much more powerful. And it also, I don't know, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it makes way more sense why it's more impactful when you've given the context through a long form medium.
Yeah, it's like you gain the permission for the platitude, right? Because like you basically through the story you personalized the platitude, right? Because everything can be personalized, right? And you just have to find a way to do it.
Yeah, and I also think that they will credit this idea more to you when you have presented sort of a thought process for reaching that conclusion rather than just giving the conclusion right away.
Yeah, exactly. Because like if you really think about it, right? Like every post or whatever can be distilled into 1 or 2 key sentences, right? This is why we say that, or this is why it's said, and why I often say that like every post that you create should have only one big idea. But like you have to create the post, and it's not enough to just write the one big idea, right? Uh, so like for example, one of the posts that got me like 20K views was like just me describing that some like bad stuff about my life, which is like, I know I still made $0, this, but I'm improving every day, and this. And then at the end I had just a one liner, which was like, you know, I don't know, it's never too late to start or something like that. Uh, but like if I removed all of the personal stuff that I wrote in the post, right, and just posted the one-liner, it's never going to work because it doesn't resonate with people. It doesn't leave anything. It doesn't stand out in any way because anyone could have written that. Um, and one of the things that I always try to think about when writing a post is like I've written about this, is like I try to ask myself, could anyone else have written this post? And if the answer is yes, then it's kind of not a good post to make, especially if you're a small creator.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Um, what would you say is the best kind of content to write on Twitter for growth and building your writing skills?
Yeah. I feel like we already discussed this. And I always say that like when you're small, or like beginner, you should just write long forms. I would say 5 per week for 30 days. Um, just like just make one post per day. It's fine. But like take your time with it. Really, write the post down. Before you even write it, like ask yourself, what is the purpose of this post? What is the big idea of this post? Who am I trying to reach with this post? What emotion am I trying to evoke? What lesson am I trying to teach? Right? Uh, and only then start actually writing it. Then once you write the post, just like take a break, come back, edit the post, make it look pretty, take your time with it. Uh, it's going to take a while, but your writing is going to improve beyond recognition in 30 days.
What would your recommendations be to have enough ideas or big ideas to post every day and have them be quality?
Kind of tricky question, I feel like, because ideation is not something that you can easily systemize, even though a lot of people are going to tell you that you can. Um, like you can't really force yourself to come up with ideas, and I feel like the more you try, the less success you're going to have. Um, I can tell you what I personally do, and maybe like that's going to help.
Sure.
So I feel like important part for me and my ideas is just allowing myself to have a time throughout the day where I can think of them. Uh, and it's like basically I like to call them like the shower thought spots. And it's like you do a certain activity where your brain is not really engaged. You're doing some physical activity. Uh, but you worked right before it, or like you're going to work right after it. And usually that's where some of the best ideas come. I just write them down, and then I kind of see what I can do with them, right? So some activities, I mean, it's just like cleaning stuff around the house, like cooking, for example, right? Just taking a walk, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like sort of the backbone of Danco's entire brand is the
Yeah,
amount of
yeah, I
time
guess.
he spends getting inspiration.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure if you read this book, The Art of Impossible.
Stephen
Stephen
Kotler.
Kotler.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like Dan took a lot of ideas
he
from that
did.
book,
Yeah,
uh,
he the
and just like
it's one of
popularized
his
them.
books he recommends.
Yeah. That's why I bought it in the first place, because like he recommended it in one of his earliest YouTube videos. Um, but yeah, in the book there is like very very good explanation as to why all of these things are like important for ideas. And basically, like if I had to summarize it, is like your subconscious mind is infinitely more powerful than your like conscious one. So you just need to give it time to work on your problems, right? And basically come up with solutions for you.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes Dan Coe stand out is that he takes these ideas from these books and applies it to a context, like growing on Twitter, building an audience, like the concepts from Art of Impossible. I think concepts from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, Ken Wilber, Naval, and applying it to like how he's earning an income and how he's building an audience. So
Yeah,
giving
I
it
mean,
context.
that's the entire purpose of this like synthesizer business model, right?
Mhm.
Which is very like I would say wholesome model where you're just like distilling knowledge and helping people apply it, right? Because I feel especially in the modern world, it's so easy to get overwhelmed with all the information that's available to you, uh, without really knowing how to make use of it. It's like if you can successfully take like certain big ideas and powerful concepts and show people how to turn them into practice so that they actually get results. Uh, like you have a lot of potential to make a lot of money, I feel like, because that's what's missing for a lot of people.
Yeah, I completely agree. What are your thoughts on threads?
My thoughts on threads are that when I tried to do them, my timeline ended up looking very ugly because like for some reason it gets all messed up. I don't know why it's happening. Uh, I've seen people do very well with them. I think there's a certain format to threads, especially lately, where it's like you put a bunch of 2 or 3 minute videos, and then you just kind of rack up the time people spend on the post, right? Because apparently that's what the algorithm cares about nowadays. Um, but I don't know, this is more of a like tactic question rather than like principle or fundamental. So I haven't thought about it too much. I probably should at some point later on, but I feel like I'm not really in a situation where I should be worrying about these things. And I should just focus on just like improving the basic stuff.
First, I had this thought that I think threads are almost better at going viral when you have a huge accomplishment, big win, and long forms are better for authority, like micro authority steps. Like if
Yeah.
you were to write, I got 5 million views, you probably wouldn't write that on a long form. You might use it as a long form, but I think it would do even better as a thread. And feel like threads are really good for those big wins like Vigo's thread. And then long forms can be for those incremental wins and then authority building consistently because you're not constantly going to have like a big idea where you can write about 2 million impressions.
Yeah, I'm gonna write it down.
Uh,
Dude, you should see my table. It's like there's 40 different papers here. Uh, my life has been a mess this past month.
yeah. I mean, I think that it seems like to me that well, actually, I'll say this after we go through the next question because it aligns with what I was going to say. What is your content system for producing high quality content consistently?
Hmm. I don't know. It's like, could you maybe specify the question a bit because I'm not sure like which angle would you like me to go from?
Um, can start where you would want. Like we could go through the different angles that you think of, but maybe like how much time you spend. Like, is there a process you have for creating content?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna go too deep into like the actual systems, because it's kind of saved for my students. Uh, I would say that important thing for me is to just I have very high bar for what quality I allow myself to produce. And it's like I'm not gonna write a post just for the sake of writing a post. And also I try to plan out the content in advance, um, in a way where okay, I maybe don't plan out the specific post, but like I always have an idea for the next week at least. Which is like I'm not sure if you've been following me at the time, but after the first 10 days, I feel like I did these 7 secrets to the X speedrun thing, where I posted 7 really long forms, like really valuable long forms, 7 days in a row. And it got me like a bunch of not only followers, but it built me a bunch of long-term trust and authority with my audience. And I feel like that was one of the biggest reasons I was able to grow, right? Uh, so like, and for example, like this week, the giveaway week, right? I kind of planned out what I was going to do. Um, so I would say it's just like, you know, don't allow yourself to post just for the sake of posting. Um, and I call this being the ex sniper, which is like, every single post that you make, every bullet should hit, and like should be precise and like it should have a reason. If not, then it's like not a good post.
Yeah. And sort of encapsulating that sounds to me that it's sort of like you take the inspiration and the idea and then you save it and then you save it to be expanded on when you have a block to expand on it. So like you might be like walking and you have like, oh, I just thought of like a couple secrets for my X growth. And like you kind of munch on that throughout your walk and you write down like kind of the bullet points of the points. And then you take like 2 hours and you completely expand on one of the points. And then that's sounds to me that that's sort of the idea. And I think it makes the most sense because I think when you capture the idea and like you look back on it, you also often can remember the thought process you were having. And it's not like as soon as you have the idea, you have to write it all out.
There's one more thing I would add to that, and is that uh, I highly recommend to anyone, no matter how much of a beginner they are, to start building something as soon as possible. Because I can tell you for sure that as soon as I started working on the giveaway that's going to be released tomorrow, all of like even hints of the issue of having nothing to write about disappeared,
Mm,
because like suddenly I can take anything that I write about in the giveaway and I can either summarize it or like expand on it further in one of my posts.
yeah.
Uh, and so I kind of regret actually not starting on the giveaway earlier. And I can tell you for sure that like as soon as this giveaway is done and like the storm settles and hopefully I'll onboard some new students and everything, I'm gonna start working on a new one, even if it's going to be just like 1 hour per day or like 2 hours per day, because that's basically going to take care of my entire content from the next month.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I had two things off that. And I think one of them shows sort of the power of this idea. And I relates to Danko, surprisingly, because that's all I talk about basically, apparently. But the his newsletters, I think, for like 2 years were basically him brainstorming his book. So I think you'll see people saying that his book is basically just based on the newsletters, and it was like the vice versa. The newsletters are based on his book outline, and you could definitely do that on like a micro level, like a giveaway. And then how do you come up with like an idea for a giveaway or a project to work on? So that way you can create content consistently. Because this idea you have for the X speed run, like that's a very interesting idea. How do you think you're going to replicate that in the future?
It's a difficult one. I'm not sure how you come up with an idea. I can tell you how you validate an idea, which is
Yeah.
like it needs to be unique. It needs to be memorable. It needs to create strong emotion, and like people need to care about it basically, right? Um, as for the part of coming up with the idea, um, I would say it's just like I don't know, it kind of happens, and the best thing I can like, I don't think you really can force an idea, um, at least not to my understanding, of the human mind as of now. Maybe later down the line we'll get to that. Um, but like for now, it's like, whenever you get an idea, just like write it down, or talk to someone about it. Let it like marinate it in your head for a while. Um, Test new ideas always. That's why I never try to copy. I try to stay away from like templates as much as possible and frameworks. Because if you like, this is the example that I like to give is like, if you always rely on templates and frameworks, it's like the training wheels on bicycle. You're going to learn only how to ride with the training wheels, and then whenever you try to ride without them, you're going to fall, and then you're gonna go back to training wheels because you're not used to falling, right? On the other hand, like if you keep experimenting, keep trying new stuff, eventually you should develop like the intuition for ideas. Kind of the best answer I can give, probably.
Yeah. I mean, this is sort of super interest, I guess, niche scenario, but like, what would you do if like 3 weeks after you launch your giveaway, you still haven't come up with another idea?
That's probably not going to happen because I want to start working on it as soon as possible. I feel like you can't have no idea, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know how do I mean, you can have a bad idea, but you can't have a no idea, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I also think there's something to having the importance of that, and your brain recognizes that importance and it'll work. Your subconscious mind will work to find the idea.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, another thing, right? Like you can start working on something, uh, on an idea. Halfway there, you realize that it's a bad idea, and you change it, like adapt it.
Yeah.
Which is like fine. Just like don't get stuck in a situation where you're just sitting there for 3 hours trying to come up with a brilliant idea, because like that's not the way ideas work.
Yeah. It's like it goes back to something we talked about towards the beginning of spending all this time planning versus taking action. And it's like once you take action, you'll figure out what works
Yeah,
or does this idea fall short and things like that. Um, what does a day in the life look like for you from a productivity standpoint for working on your brand, clients, and things like that?
I guess it kind of depends on if it's the ideal day of what I'd like it to look like, or if it's the realistic day of past month. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I try to build first thing in the morning, like as soon as possible. Um, by build, I mean working on courses and systems for my students. Then I try to write. By write, I mean creating content. Um, so far, it's been posts. It's going to be emails as well for the new month. So excited for that. Uh, and then after that, ideally, I would spend at least like an hour every day just systemizing my own stuff, just to kind of make life easier and save more time in the future, or like for the future. And then ideally, I would towards the evening, I would learn, which is just like study books, courses, whatever.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that systemization part I think is very important.
Yeah, and it's something you don't, at least I had no idea about before I started. And even like the first couple of weeks, because first couple of weeks I was just like, going with the flow and like just like spending 8 hours a day on like just talking to people and stuff. And then as soon as I started working on the QA and I, had to create something for my students, I realized that, oh shit, okay, it's not going to work like this. Like I have to systemize as much of the stuff as I can, right? So like I've been working on systems for, my writing, my content creation, everything, right? And actually this Saturday, I'm going to try like write all of my content for the next week in one day. Um, because that's something I've been trying to get to for a while. Uh, and we'll see how it goes. But if like ideally I try to do that every single week.
Yeah. It's like you collect those ideas throughout the week and then you spend one day fleshing out all those ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, like throughout the week, like you're, taking notes, creating drafts and whatever. And then one day you just sit and you take everything and you put it uh into reality.
Yeah. Do you have different kinds of content that you create and like within long forms as well? Like is there certain types of long forms you write and like you approach it? Or is every long form because there's different intentions with the long forms, right?
Yeah.
And posts, yeah.
Mm. So what I would say is every post should have a purpose, as I mentioned. And that purpose is usually either to bring new people in, uh, demonstrate authority, or like create connection with your audience that you have. So it's like traffic, authority, connection.
Yeah,
Um,
growth, authority, personality, I think Gap from Dakota Robertson, right?
oh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've never heard it.
Oh, really?
No, no, no. I mean, this is just like because like I've been thinking about like creating a writing course specifically for the future. I'm probably not gonna have enough time for it in the next month. So like I've started brainstorming some ideas, and like I was okay if I had to describe the purpose of like content or like divide it into categories, how would I divide them? And kind of this is what I came up with, which is like traffic, authority, and connection.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And like you
How,
need a good balance, right?
yep. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing really to add there. That's just exactly what you need. So, um, yeah. How, I don't know, this is so broad, but how do you improve your writing?
Um, how do you improve our writing? Write every day. Um, I would say there's like 4 steps, right? And you should do them every day, which is like write uh your own content first, then study others or your old content, then learn, which is like courses, books, whatever, and then like just iterate and actually apply what you learned and what you studied.
So is it sort of like maybe like, I don't know, maybe you write a rough draft for a long form and then, what did you say the second stuff was? I had a thought and I just
Study,
forgot.
study.
Yeah. You study other people's content, then you look back at yours and see if there's anything you can apply. Um, Gosh, I just forgot the third one too. But the
Yeah, third one was learn. So like for example, what it could like in practice, right, is like you write a post, uh then you look at your swipe file with all the like the nice posts that you like. Maybe you pick one hook or like you pick a headline or certain like framework or like a certain visual pattern or whatever, and you like ask yourself, okay, can I apply this to my post? Would it make sense? Can I improve it, right? Because that's another important thing, is just not just copying, but trying to make it better. Uh, and or like at least try like at least forcing yourself to like, if I had to make this better, if I had to improve this, how would I do it? Um, and then for the learning part is like, you watch a course or like you read a book, you learn something, and then you apply it immediately. So like I was reading the book the other day, in the evening, and it's like I read about some interesting lesson, and immediately I try to think of a way to incorporate it into my content the next day, if possible. And by doing this, at least for me personally, is like 10 times more effective than just like passively storing knowledge. It's like as soon as I put something in practice, it's like 100 times more likely to stick with me. And like the only thing better than that, for me at least personally, is to teach it. Uh, because when you teach something, you're forcing yourself to understand it in the most like clear and simple way. Uh, and that's where the real knowledge comes for, at least for me.
Yeah, I think that's called the Feynman technique, if I'm not mistaken, teaching other people. And that's like the greatest demonstration of the true knowledge of the subject is being able to teach it to somebody else.
Yeah, I've never heard about it, but like from my experience ever since school, basically, it's been the case. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely maybe someone that you'd be interested in, Richard Feynman, the mathematician. I
Oh
think
yeah, yeah,
there's,
I've heard of it.
yeah, like stories of, I think, how he could take someone in an hour from beginner math to understanding the basics of calculus or something wild that he was able to teach so well.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Like I always admired, the people that were able to explain difficult concepts on a level understandable for beginners. Uh, and basically for anyone who had no prior understanding. And that's one of my goals as well. Always is like trying to explain stuff uh, in the most understandable, digestible way as well.
yeah, what is your sort of analyzing slash reflection system for your content and your brand?
Yeah. Um, this is something that I wrote post about in the past. And it's another 5-step framework, which is like step one is observe, step two is ask, step three is steal, step four is gather, and then step five is adapt. Um, and what this means is like you observe the content of others or your own from the past. Then step two, you ask yourself, like, why did this do well? Why did my post go viral? What did people like about this? Why did this one not go viral? Why did this one perform below my expectations? Um, then after you've answered those questions, because like there's reason for everything, like right, like X is not random, it's all like people and data. Um, then you steal, by steal I mean steal like an artist. Um, because like I see no problem with taking inspiration from posts that work. And like if something worked for, you know, 10 different people, uh, then it's probably going to work for you as well. You just have to be smart about it and like put your own spin on it. So like even the post that my viral post that got 20K views and that got me 100 followers was not completely my own creation, right? I just took a post that was in my swipe file, uh, and I played around with it until it was different enough and unique enough that like I was happy with it. So it's like, I don't know, in my opinion, it's kind of almost dumb not to steal like an artist sometimes. And then the final two steps just mean that you should always try to like gather feedback, whether that's asking people directly or like just seeing the data and analytics. And finally, like you should adapt quickly because like on X everything is happening so fast. And like I've seen some people basically stick to the same type of content for the entire month that I've been here, right? And they are not growing, and it's kind of almost like shocking to see because like if something didn't work 10 times in a row, it's probably not going to work the 11th time, right? Like uh there's like it's one thing hoping to get 1% better every single day and like eventually cross a certain threshold, but at some point you have to realize that maybe you have to start taking bigger steps and experimenting with new stuff until you find something that does work, and then you can start improving on it and like doubling down.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, I've like added a post to the week, which is an experimentation post where I'm sort of sort of trying to innovate in some way, like creating a new style from what I've learned and different things like that. And I think that's important, not only because so it doesn't become stale to you, but also because then if you can experiment and innovate and people start copying you, that's
Yeah,
definitely a good way to build authority.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to maybe do a bit more of that because I feel like I found certain like templates that have worked had worked for me. I kind of stuck to them, but maybe it's time to start experimenting with new stuff. But for example, for the emails, like I plan to experiment a lot until I gather as much data as I can.
Yeah.
Because I feel like on emails it's very different from X as well. Because like they're like people who have subscribed to your emails have like chosen to do so. It's not like random strangers on the entire platform. So I feel like that's very good way to like validate and test new ideas.
Yeah, I agree. And another thought with this authority, I think personally that YouTube is a much better way to build authority than Twitter for a couple reasons. I think being able to see and hear someone. I also think that there's something powerful about that you post something and it doesn't disappear in 48 hours because then people can binge your content and also the long form aspect. And I think it's a lot better I feel like Twitter's almost like a chirp wire if you like getting people into you
Hmm.
in your stuff. And long form is like one of the better tripwires if you really want to get depth initially. And then newsletter, YouTube, email is like the
Yeah.
best way to build trust and authority.
Yeah. No, I mean the fact that the video every video that you post stays on YouTube forever is insane, and like it's incomparable to any other platform, and that's the reason I chose YouTube in the first place, right? And like I plan to return to YouTube eventually, right? Because it feels kind of bad to create something like a long form or whatever and know that in like a week it's going to be completely forgotten, right? um so it's good for testing ideas and developing your ideas. And that's why I feel like it's so much easier to start on X as a beginner. But like eventually, if you want to choose a social media to kind of demonstrate your authority in and really build like a trust and loyal audience, is going to be YouTube.
Yeah, speaking of, I had an idea for you for a video. Um, if you converted your like as your first video that you do, maybe try to go viral on your first one, is like converting your giveaway into a YouTube video.
I did my first YouTube video actually already uh, before I came to X, before I even started copywriting. It was like um, the kind of I will make it video where I kind of describe my big plans. But yeah, I was thinking about it, but I'm afraid that like it might distract me a bit too much.
Mm.
Because like by the way, I know myself. I would have spent a lot of time trying to make the YouTube video perfect. So like if I were to do it, I would just do like a kind of low effort, you know, just the recording of me drawing some stuff on the mirror board and just like, you know, explaining to people that you know they should come over to X, and basically I would just try to funnel them there. Uh, but maybe it might be a good idea to try to make a video that like blows up. But then again, it
Yeah,
might
maybe in the
like be
future.
distracting. Yeah, it might
Yeah.
be a bit distracting for now.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of what Vigo's doing now is transitioning to YouTube because he's sort of systemized Twitter for testing ideas and stuff. I mean, because like in 6 months, if you have this Twitter thing down and you created a post or a YouTube video, your first YouTube video, the only video you need to watch to grow on Twitter and
Mhm.
monetize, and like it's an hour long or something insane with a lot of value. And I
Yeah.
think that is some powerful idea. But speaking about your giveaway, can you like share what it's about? Because this video will be posted long after your giveaway. Well, not long,
Yeah.
but next Friday. So what is it about?
Yeah. So my giveaway is titled 12 Steps to X Speedrun. Um, Basically the way I approach it, right, is I wanted to make something that was very beginner friendly, but in a way where it's practical and is like applicable, right? So the way I created the giveaway is it has 12 main modules, each module for one step of the speed run. And each module kind of starts with the introduction where it explains what you're going to learn. Then there's some theory, like the knowledge that you would find in like usual giveaway is like very, you know, detailed, and there's a lot of examples and everything. Just basically trying to teach as well as I can. And then at the end of the step, there's like actionable tasks that you should do before you move on to the next step, right? Something there's is something I've not seen in other giveaways, and it's something that I feel like has a lot of potential. Uh, and then you know after you're done with like all the 12 steps or whatever, there's some like you know bonuses like bonus frameworks, stuff like that, just like the timeline for you and whatnot. So that's that's kind of the main idea, is to just give a like practical step-by-step guide.
I think the crucial thing is making sure that the giveaway post is incredibly good because I know you're going to deliver on the value, but it's like it's so important to make a good hook in the giveaway, or else all the work is wasted in some way.
Yeah.
So, how are you approaching that, making sure it goes viral?
um I don't know, I guess I just can I find it? I guess I just copied one of the, you know, proven frameworks, and it's like the post is like, in my first 30 days on X, I got 500 followers, 200,000 impressions, first high ticket client. Now I'm sharing all my secrets for free. I don't know. Feel like you don't have to really get creative here. You just
Do what works,
do what
and
works.
then surprise them with the actual value you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to go through it. If are you,
Mhm.
can you share some of it since it'll be out, or
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what exactly
because
I
there's
should
a
say,
lot.
because like no, yeah, exactly, there's like a lot, and I don't want to start in the middle, right? But it kind of starts with the preparations, which is all the stuff that people are doing incorrectly and they have to fix before they even attempt to write the first post, and there's a lot of that. Then it kind of, you know, explains how X works as a platform and the algorithm, because once again, people, this kind of surprises me. Like, how could you, come to X and not really study the algorithm and the way it works? Because for me, it's like, okay, you're playing the game. Like, what is the first thing you learn? You learn the rules, right? Um, so it kind of explains the X algorithm. Uh, and from there, it kind of just goes over all of the basics, which is just like the fundamental principles of attracting your audience, right? Uh, and then like practical steps on how to actually do it, which is like creating your, attractive brand, then making sure like your posts are actually impactful and good, um, building your network, engagement and why it's so important. And then it kind of at the end it kind of goes into more advanced stuff, which is like the difference between personality and authority content, why it's important to have both, and then kind of give some tips on how to basically skyrocket your growth once you get going and once you know all the basic stuff. So it's like it's designed in a way where like you learn the basics first, then you kind of learn as you go. You always learn only what you need to know at the moment, and finally like you put everything you use, and like you just supercharge your growth. Like I honestly feel like for beginners, it's going to be like the best resource there is. Even though it like might not, you know guarantee you 500 followers just on your own, right? Because you still have to put in a lot of work, and it's not like I'm there with you teaching you, but it's kind of the best thing I can do, uh like to give someone to just read without having the one-on-one access to them.
Um, what is sort of your goal? How many impressions do you plan to land any, like a certain number of clients or anything like that from the giveaway?
Yeah. um, First goal is not getting banned. uh
Yeah.
I feel like as long as we get that one, then it's all going to be good. um Honestly, I haven't thought about it. Like the actual number doesn't really matter, as long as it creates like impact, uh, and it builds trust with my audience, and like it gives them value. That's I'm gonna be satisfied with it, even if I don't get any new students for that, which I find kind of hard to believe, but it can happen. So
Yeah. Yeah, I really am like hoping that you don't get banned. I don't really understand what's going on with that whole giveaway thing with people getting banned. It's really strange. I recently did a giveaway that I didn't get banned on. I mean, I didn't go super viral. I got like 9,000 impressions, which is pretty good, but not like insane. Um, this other person just did a giveaway who got 22,000 impressions. They didn't get banned, so I have no idea how it works, but I think I saw a post about people trying to figure it out. And
yeah, I've seen them as well.
yeah, I saw you posted that you spent 120 hours on it, and my guess is that you actually did, unlike a lot
Yeah.
of it. I know if you actually say like the hours, I
No,
actually
I
believe
I
it.
I I actually started tracking it. I stopped around like 50 because I didn't see point anymore. But yeah, like between actually writing the giveaway and setting up everything regarding the launch, um, like landing pages, newsletter sequences, it's even more than that. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I believe it. That's like the authority hacking threads that bother me. Is like studied 1,000+ hours of Andrew Huberman's content.
yeah,
It's like no, you didn't.
yeah, no,
It's like you watched like two videos from him and took 7 tips.
yeah. But like once again, it's kind of it's why it's I feel like it's so easy to stand out is because most people are not going to actually put in the work. So like if you do, uh like you're gonna stick out easily.
Yeah, there's a creator I really like who has taught me a lot, Aiden Labresh, and on a podcast I did with him, he talks about how when people think that they do 10x the effort, they're going to get 10x the results, but you really get 100x the results
Oh,
by
for
doing
sure.
10x the effort. And I think that's even something from Mr. Beast as well. He talks about with YouTube. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm gonna be annoyed for you if this giveaway doesn't go viral, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Regarding the 100x results, it's also like it's also one of the reasons why I always like try not to be like just good, but to be the best. Because like the difference between the best one and the second best one in a certain like category or like a niche, uh it's monumental, right? So like that's that's why I feel like there is just so much value in really trying to nail all of the details and like really show your effort and put the value and a lot of work into everything, because like I honestly believe that it's going to come back to like sooner or later.
yeah, I agree. I think that karma really does have an effect, and it, like even if this giveaway doesn't go viral, there's some lesson or something that's going to make it so much more valuable in the future due to that effort and reflection.
Yeah.
Moving on from sort of Twitter, what are your plans and next steps you're taking? So it sounds like you're starting to write an email. So what
Mhm.
would you say is your goals slash plans for the rest of the year?
Oh, okay.
All right, maybe just a couple
No,
months.
no. Rest of the year is kind of long, long time frame. Goal for the next month, is just first of all deliver for all of the students, start getting them insane results. And after that, it's just go all in on the newsletter. I'm probably gonna like calm down a bit with long forms and everything, uh, and try to maybe write a platitude or two to just bring people, on my profile, get them to see the giveaway, right? Because like I'm gonna keep it as lead magnet, of course. Just get them to read the giveaway and try to like convert them into long form, like into long term subscribers of the newsletter. And then I plan to like share the actual insights and value in the newsletter, because I feel like there's where you don't have to play by the rules of the algorithm and focus on viral hooks or whatever, and you can kind of go more in depth and like actually give advice. So like my vision for the newsletter is to like once again be completely different from all the X Growth newsletters that I'm subscribed to, which try to sell most of the time and like promote. I want to actually teach with the newsletter. So that's kind of the goal for the next month.
To me, it sounds like your next product that you make or lead magnet should be an educational email course because the goal of that is to educate. Have you heard of those?
Very only today, I've because like I've seen the giveaway from yesterday, uh, that Esther did,
Hmm.
and it surprised me that it's actually an email course. Uh, I'll see how the emails actually are. I have not thought about it, to be honest. Um, if I mean, I'm gonna discuss it with some people, um, maybe, but honestly, I it wasn't even on my radar. I was planning on doing just like another giveaway, another lead magnet. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
I'll have to decide. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure like what are the advantages, to be honest, with the
yeah,
email thing.
I think I can maybe outline them a little bit because I was at one point trying to sell them. So,
Yeah,
um,
go ahead.
I think number one, sort of, this isn't as talked about, but it gets used to people to gets your email list used to you sending emails,
Yeah, that
which is
makes
one
sense.
thing. Another thing is that because it keeps popping up in their inbox, they're more likely to actually go through it rather than say you give them an ebook or a thing and they look at it and they're like, I'll look at this later, and they never look at it again. But an educational email course keeps popping up in their inbox. I think you can do this with other lead magnets as well, but it sort of is to lead them through the levels of awareness. So if you're trying to sell something, you can do an educational email course, 5 things you're messing up with X, and then the solution is to buy coaching. But that's like from a marketing perspective, that's really it's good for leading through levels of awareness. But I would say the biggest thing is honestly that people are like more likely to go through it, and it gets people used to getting emails from you because like I honestly haven't gone through too many giveaways. And I think that educational email courses are more likely because you just keep seeing it like every day for 5 days. And if you read one, you go back and read the other. And it's almost like a show. Like you read the first one and then you're waiting the next day for them to release the next episode or email.
Yeah, yeah, I I kind of agree with all of that. But I have to say that I feel like a course like this is not going to get remembered for long. Well, the giveaway or like the ebook has the potential to stay with someone for a very long time. So because like
Hmm.
I can't imagine when I was starting on X and I did all of my research, learning from like a 5-day email course that was like trying to sell me something in the end. I
Yeah.
learned from the giveaways, right? And like one of the goals of my current giveaway is like to be the one giveaway for
New
beginners
creators that you get like
to
people will
to
recommend.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like my goal was to make the giveaway so good that every other giveaway they'll come across in the next 2 months is going to like pale in comparison for beginners especially. And I feel like you can't really do that with the
Yeah.
email thing. But again, I have no
Mhm.
experience with it. I'm gonna write it down and I'll think about it. But I feel like
I think they're I think they're
you
good
can
for
do
different
that
goals.
even outside of the giveaway, right? Like because I feel like I'm not sure how long though those emails are going to be, but like if it's like 5-day email course that takes you, I don't know, 10 hours to write, then you can like do that just like randomly, when you're trying to like promote something. So I don't know. I'll have to do, of course, some like more research into this because I haven't come across this as much.
Yeah. There's a good course on how to write educational email courses that I could send you if you do become interested, but I think they're for different goals. I think now that you're saying it, I don't know if you can provide as much depth in an educational email course as you can in a
Yeah, that's
giveaway.
what I meant. Like you can give as many like examples, pictures and everything.
Yeah, I think it's different goals. I
Yeah,
think uh educational email course is probably more for selling and
yeah.
also a little more actionable advice like this. You don't get to provide as much context as you can in a giveaway.
Hmm.
But like, because you could like the like 7 secrets to X growth, those 7 long forms you write, like you could just turn that into an educational email course and collect emails.
Yeah, yeah, you can absolutely.
Yeah, but I agree. And especially because it seems that you put a lot of care into what you're creating, that I think the giveaway, like ebook, that sort of thing makes more sense because you get to provide so much depth and examples and context.
Yeah, it's also like more more convenient to go through once you read it for the first time, right? Because like what are you going to do with emails, right? Like you're going to save them in your inbox, or like you're going to take screenshots and like put them together. I'm
Well,
not
I
really
guess you
sure.
could star them or like,
Yeah, you could, but like I don't know. It just
yeah.
seems impractical to go looking through your inbox for when you need the info, right? But when there's a giveaway that you like you can copy it into your Notion and you have there like forever.
Yeah, it's like more, it's like a guide versus, it's like a resource versus, I don't know what an educational email course would be, but it's like one's a resource that you refer to more often than the other one is something else. But um, yeah, I mean, this one is like, I don't even know how I'd answer this question, but what is your end goal as a creator? Like, I don't know, you can decide
Yeah,
how
no.
far in the future.
Um, I would say the, I mean, this is not a goal, this is a vision, more like, um, be to just like change the future of education and do something about our current system.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think you would I didn't know that that was something you were interested in, but based on that, I think you'd be interested in this person named Tuan Trung. I don't know how to say his last name, but I recently did a podcast with him. It's going out this Friday. You could listen to that and see if you like him. But he got his bachelor's at 18 and something graduated high school at 16, and he's really interested in how to learn and reforming the education system.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds like a smart guy.
Yeah, he's pretty smart. I think he has 25,000 followers on Twitter, so he's very good at writing threads. Uh Moving on to the next question. Do you have a dream destination to live or travels? Dream places to travel to and visit?
Nah, not really.
Really?
Nah. I mean, something that never really interested me. I don't know.
Hmm.
I guess I mean it might be cool once you actually do experience it, but it's not something that like when I think about it that like would motivate me or like make me excited for the future.
That's interesting.
I don't know, do
Hmm.
you?
Yeah, it does excite me, but I wonder what
Which
that
part, living or the traveling?
traveling, experiencing different cultures, I think,
Mm.
seeing different places. I don't know. I feel like if we're gonna be on this earth, you might as well explore it. And
Yeah.
I mean, but I wonder what it is like sort of like maybe that you are more doing it. I don't know. It sounds like you do it. I don't know, doing it for the sake because the result's still important, but it's like almost this mastery aspect. And like they're not really like a I want to be able to travel, have a Bugatti, like whatever, have nice hotels. It's more of like the mastery of something seems to be my takeaway is something that seems to drive you most.
Yeah, it's just like doing something that has meaning. Because you know like I could have gotten a comfortable or nice job at like I don't know, like a software company or a bank or whatever. Uh like what are you really doing? Like how are you really contributing in that case? Um so it's like, you know, the goal is to just build something or like create something meaningful.
Yeah, I love that. Um, Sort of relating to that maybe a little bit is do you think you're going to be a micro authority or do you want to be a large brand like Danco size, Alex Ramosi, Hamza, like that size, Imai Ghazi?
I don't care about it too much, to be honest. Um I feel like the only thing that matters is like the impact that I'll be able to have.
By the
So like,
large brand.
i- yeah, I mean, if you can have big impact without people really knowing you, that I mean, I don't mind. Uh, but it would seem that in order to like have a big impact, you have to have a big brand. So
Yeah.
it's probably going to I'm probably going to try to do that one more. Yeah.
As we come to the end of the podcast, if you could have the audience take only one thing away after listening, what would it be?
I would say it would be different, be better, and be yourself.
I think that's a perfect way to end it and basically sums up your success in like 6 words.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on, Martin. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
it was a pleasure.